Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I'm at home and I'm going to be making a tuna melt. So tuna melt, actually one of the very first things I learned how to cook. I learned how to make it from my dad. I'm gonna do it in a specific way. You don't have to use these same ingredients. Sometimes I like doing celery and red onions. Sometimes I got celery and scallions here. I do like to have that celery for the crunch, and I do like to have some sort of allium. So whether that's scallions or red onions or shallots or whatever, maybe even garlic. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can do just tuna if you prefer. You could do chopped up pickles. Some people like that. So I'm going to start by finally dicing my celery. Just one stalk. Okay. And then I'm gonna do some scallions as well. So the tuna melt, the way I learned to make a tuna melt, I remember when I was a kid, I was home one day on a Saturday night with my dad. I don't know where my mom was at the time. I think maybe out of town. I was at home with my dad on a Saturday night. And he wanted to make steak for dinner, but all we had was this big frozen block of beef in the freezer. And so I remember him pulling out that pulling that block of meat out of the freezer, realizing it wasn't thawing in time, and he was trying to cut into it with a knife. And I was watching him in the kitchen, and then he goes, "Hey Ken, get me the hammer." And so I went to the closet and I brought him the hammer. And what he did was he put the tip of the knife down on the steak and started hammering the back of it. And then at around the third stroke, the knife shattered into like 4 or 5 pieces that went flying around the kitchen. So word of advice, if you have a frozen block of beef, don't try and cut into it with a knife and a hammer. It's not going to work. And then that happened. Then he said, "Hey Ken, we're going to make tuna melts for dinner. Go get the tuna." And so I did, and that was my first exposure to tuna melts. And we did it with tuna salad, American cheese, on plain white bread that wasn't toasted. Oh, I'm going to toast mine, by the way. I like to toast my bread for tuna melts. This is just sliced bread is what you want. You can do it in the broiler, or you can do it in the toaster. I'm doing it under the broiler. There's nothing special about doing it in the broiler. In fact, a toaster would work better. I just don't own a toaster. All right, so you don't need fancy tuna. Water packed is fine. You don't need the oil packed stuff. You do want to drain it because you don't want watery tuna salad. But I'll show you the trick that I like to do for my tuna salad that makes it good no matter the quality of your tuna. This is a good way to make tuna salad. All right, so I got tuna going in. Save the fancy stuff for like a niçoise salad or something where you're really going to have nice big chunks of tuna. All right, tuna going in. This is some homemade mayo. I made this just now. I will link to a video in the description to show you how I made this homemade mayo, but you can use store-bought. A couple tablespoons of homemade mayo, salt and pepper, and then, here we go. Pepper, salt. You could also add, lemon zest, lemon juice if you want. And then here's the trick. So I'm gonna start mixing this up. And at this stage, you kind of want to, you want to fork the tuna, but you don't want to fork with it too much. And then what we do is we start adding olive oil. So really good extra virgin olive oil, a couple tablespoons at a time, or a couple teaspoons at a time. And I'm going to add quite a bit. It's going to end up being probably like a quarter cup in here, and I just love the way it makes it sort of really velvety. It adds a lot of fresh olive oil flavor. It adds that, a little bit of bitterness, grassiness, aroma. I think it's by far the best way to make tuna salad. I started making it this way after I ate, so Anna Sorten, who's a chef in Boston, she had a restaurant called Oleana, which I believe is still there, but I haven't lived in Boston for a while. But Oleana was a wonderful Mediterranean restaurant, or is a wonderful Mediterranean restaurant, and they have these deviled eggs where they fill the eggs with this tuna, confit tuna, and yolk mixture that has a ton of olive oil in it. And that combination of really nice tuna and fancy olive oil, I just love it. And so here, then I started doing it to my not so fancy tuna, and I found that it really makes the flavor pop also. All right, now let's taste it. I do a tiny bit more. If you wanted to, you could also add lemon juice, lemon zest. You could use chopped up herbs like parsley or chives, dill if you like dill, whatever you want really. But you see how I've added a ton of olive oil, but it doesn't look greasy, and that's because the olive oil sort of gets incorporated into that emulsion. And that's about, all right, no more forking. Get our second side, the bread going. All right, now I'm gonna also slice up some cheese, cheddar cheese. You could use American, sort of the classic, diner tuna melt. But I like cheddar. This is a Tillamook Extra Sharp. Let's get it. We want some good coverage on here. All right, and then a tomato. I've been managing to find these actually pretty decent tomatoes. Even though it's February right now, I found some decent tomatoes at Safeway of all places. A general rule of thumb for tomatoes is that, when they're off season, if you're buying tomatoes in the winter, generally the smaller the tomato, or especially the smaller the type of tomato, the better it's going to be, because the reason winter tomatoes are so bad is because they're picked when they're very firm, because they have to be shipped. And so larger tomatoes are picked when they're even more firm because they're more delicate, they're heavier, so they kind of get crushed on their own weight if you pick them when they're too firm, too soft. Whereas smaller tomatoes like cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, things like that tend to be picked when they're riper. And so if you're buying tomatoes in the winter, look for smaller tomatoes in general, and the smaller the tomato, the better it'll be. This is some kind of heirloom tomato from Fairway. All right, good enough for my bread. Nope, now we want to leave the broiler on. All right. Should we put extra toasty side on the inside or the outside? Yeah, let's go on the outside. I like it extra toasty on the outside. All right, little mayo. Tuna melt needs plenty of mayo. When I was growing up, it was Hellmann's. Out here on the West Coast, it's Duke's. Actually, when I was growing up, it was either Hellmann's or Kewpie. More likely it was Kewpie. On goes our tuna mixture. And this, by the way, is delicious just as a plain cold sort of tuna salad, or with crackers or whatever, You don't have to make it into a tuna melt. I like to put a couple slices of tomato. And as always, you season your tomatoes. A little salt. Oh, hi, Shabu. How you doing? A little pepper. Shingle on that cheese. I'll put this on a little sizzle platter here so that it doesn't melt into the oven. And that tuna mixture can also tend to get a little bit juicy, like drip off the edges. It's not going to soak into your bread, but it might drip off the edges. All right, now this is going under here to broil. That'll take about a minute, so I will be back in just 1 minute. Whew, and we are melty and good to go. All right. Does that look good? Boy, does that look good. All right. So let's close it off. As we all know, triangles taste better, so we're going to cut it into triangles here. Whew, that's a sloppy one. Got a slopper. And check that out. Yummy. I'm gonna need a fork to scrape all this up. Kind of overstuffed this one. Oh, shabu. And tomato. Ow, got my finger there. All right, some cheese. Sit, good girl. There you go. All right, guys, gals, non-binary pals. This is the way I make my tuna melt, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, it's Kenji. There are 22 million kids in this country that rely on school lunches for nutritious meals. And with schools closed now more than ever, organizations like No Kid Hungry can use their support. So I'm asking you to join me. Click the link in the description below to donate some money. No amount is too small or too big. Thank you very much and stay safe. Bye-bye.